Caffeine. You already did this one today. You woke up foggy, slow, like your brain was wrapped in wet cloth. Thinking felt like dragging furniture across carpet. You shuffled to the kitchen, made the coffee, drank it standing over the sink. 15 minutes later, the cloth lifted. The furniture moved easily. You felt like yourself again. Here's what actually happened inside your skull. Your brain produces a chemical called adenosine all day long. Every hour you're awake, more adenosine accumulates, binding to receptors and making you progressively sleepier. It's your brain's way of keeping score, of telling your body that rest is owed. Caffeine is shaped almost identically to adenosine. It fits into the same receptors like a duplicate key. Except it doesn't turn anything on. It just sits there blocking the signal. Your brain looks around, notices the off switch isn't working, and panics. It floods your system with adrenaline and dopamine to compensate. That's your morning energy. That's your focus. That's also the reason 2 p.m. feels like walking through sand, when the caffeine clears and every hour of accumulated adenosine crashes through at once. So you make another cup. You've been chemically dependent on this for years, and you call it a personality trait. Alcohol. The first drink loosens something you didn't realize was wound tight. Your shoulders drop half an inch. The low-level noise running in the background of your mind, the unfinished tasks, the conversations you replayed, the vague sense that you should be doing something more productive, quiets down. You say the thing you were hesitating to say, and it lands fine, and everyone laughs, and you wonder why you ever held back. Alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. It enhances the effect of GABA, your brain's primary inhibitory neurotransmitter. GABA slows neural activity. Alcohol makes it louder, more aggressive, more effective at shutting things down. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for consequences and judgment, and the voice that says, maybe don't, goes quiet first. Without that voice, you feel free, confident, charming. The social math you normally run in the background stops calculating. By drink 3, your cerebellum is compromised. Balance, coordination, and fine motor control all degrade. By drink 4, your hippocampus stops forming clean memories. The night starts developing gaps. Morning arrives. The adrenaline your body produced to counteract the depressant is still running. That's the anxiety. The headache is inflammation and dehydration. The shame is just the prefrontal cortex coming back online and reviewing the transcript. Cannabis. Time gets strange first. You took one hit 20 minutes ago, and you are now fully convinced it was 2 hours. The song playing in the background is the best song ever written. You've heard it 100 times. Right now, it sounds like you're hearing music for the first time, like someone adjusted a setting in your brain you didn't know existed. THC, the active compound in cannabis, binds to cannabinoid receptors scattered throughout your brain and body. These receptors normally respond to a natural chemical called anandamide, named after the Sanskrit word for bliss. Anandamide regulates mood, appetite, memory, and pain. THC hijacks the entire system simultaneously. Your hippocampus gets disrupted. Short-term memory formation slows dramatically. That's why mid-sentence, you sometimes lose the beginning of the sentence entirely and have to start over from a different direction, hoping to find your way back to the point. Your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, gets flooded. For some people, this means deep, couch-locked relaxation. For others, the exact same dose produces sudden paranoia, irrational, sourceless, completely convincing dread. Same drug, different brain, entirely different experience. Your appetite regulation shuts off. You eat an entire bag of chips without a single conscious decision. You fall asleep watching something you'll never finish, in a position your neck will complain about tomorrow. Adderall. Everything gets sharp. The project you've been avoiding for 3 weeks, the one you've opened and closed 12 times without starting, gets finished in 4 hours. Not just finished, organized, thorough, properly formatted, every email answered, every tab closed, every item crossed off in a clean, satisfying line. Adderall is an amphetamine. It forces your brain to release large quantities of dopamine and norepinephrine simultaneously, flooding the prefrontal cortex with the neurochemicals responsible for sustained attention, working memory, and impulse control. In a brain with ADHD, where dopamine regulation is structurally impaired, this produces focus by correcting a deficit. In a neurotypical brain, it produces something that feels extraordinary, like running with the wind instead of against it. You feel capable, organized, like the version of yourself you always believed existed underneath the procrastination. But your body is working harder than it looks. Heart rate elevated, jaw tight without you noticing, appetite suppressed entirely. You haven't eaten since morning and you feel no need to. You're running on borrowed neurochemistry, spending future resources at a discount. When it wears off, the drop is sudden and real. Irritable, foggy, hollow. Thoughts that were lightning an hour ago now move through mud. The project is done, but you feel strangely empty about it, like someone else completed it while you watched. You stare at the wall for a while and try to remember who you were before. MDMA. Everyone in the room becomes someone you love. The stranger next to you tells you about his childhood, something ordinary, something he's probably told a dozen times, and it is the most important story you have ever heard. You feel genuine, overwhelming care for this person you met 40 minutes ago. You hug people freely. You say true things without fear of how they land. MDMA detonates your serotonin system. It forces neurons to release 3 to 5 times the normal amount of serotonin simultaneously, while also blocking its reabsorption so it keeps flooding the synapse. Serotonin governs mood, emotional bonding, empathy, and the sense that things are fundamentally okay. All of it, released at once. Your amygdala, normally scanning for threats, goes almost completely silent. The social armor you've spent years building dissolves. You feel no fear, no insecurity, no performance. Just warmth and presence and the strange relief of being exactly where you are. The problem is arithmetic. Your brain spent a week's worth of serotonin in 4 hours. The next 3 days are called the come down. Flatness, emotional fragility. Small things feel enormous and large things feel pointless. The world looks the same, but the color has been temporarily drained from it. You experienced genuine human connection. You also borrowed against the system that produces it, cocaine. 30 seconds after the line, your heart rate doubles. You feel powerful in a way that is difficult to describe without sounding delusional. Articulate, magnetic. Every thought arrives already polished. The conversation you're having feels significant. You feel like the most interesting person in the room, possibly the building, and you are generous enough not to say so out loud. Cocaine works by blocking dopamine reuptake. Normally, dopamine fires across a synapse, delivers its signal, and gets recycled back into the neuron that released it. Cocaine jams the recycling mechanism completely. Dopamine accumulates in the synapse and keeps firing the reward signal over and over with nothing to stop it. The high lasts approximately 20 minutes. That's the entire experience. 20 minutes of feeling like the main character of something important. Then it drops, faster and harder than almost any other substance. The contrast between the peak and the crash is so severe that the second line isn't about chasing the high. It's about not surviving the low. The low isn't sadness. It's more clinical than that. Absence. Like the volume of life got turned to zero. By 4 a.m., the money is gone and the feeling is unreachable, and you're just sitting there, fully awake, waiting for morning to rescue you from the version of yourself that made these decisions. Heroin. Pain stops existing. Not just physical pain, the grief you've been carrying quietly for 2 years, the shame that surfaces at 3 a.m. uninvited, the low hum of anxiety that you've lived with so long you forgot it wasn't supposed to be there. All of it, gone. Replaced by something that doesn't have an accurate word in English. Warmth from the inside out. The feeling of being held by something larger than yourself. Complete safety. Total stillness. Heroin binds to opioid receptors throughout your brain and spinal cord, the same receptors designed for your body's natural painkillers. It binds with a force so far beyond anything natural that your brain's own system becomes irrelevant by comparison. Your breathing slows. Your pupils contract. Your body chemistry rewrites its priorities entirely. The first time, many people describe not euphoria, but normalcy, finally feeling okay, finally feeling like the version of themselves they were supposed to be. That description is the most frightening thing about this drug, not the chaos that follows, the relief that comes first. Because your brain records that relief with perfect accuracy, it catalogs it, prioritizes it, begins reorganizing its entire reward hierarchy around the memory of that feeling. Everything else, food, connection, achievement, sunlight, gets quietly demoted. You didn't just take a drug, you showed your brain a ceiling it will spend years trying to reach again. Methamphetamine. You haven't slept in 2 days and you feel extraordinary. Your thoughts move faster than you can speak. The room feels too slow for you. Tasks that seemed impossible a week ago now feel trivial beneath your current capacity. Meth causes the brain to release dopamine at levels 10 times higher than any natural reward. Food, success, love, none of it comes close. The reward system, the architecture your brain spent your entire life building to respond to meaningful experiences, gets completely overwritten in a single session. But meth doesn't just release dopamine, it physically destroys the neurons responsible for producing and regulating it. The axon terminals, the structures that store and release dopamine, get damaged by the chemical process itself. Long-term users show measurable, visible loss of dopamine-producing capacity on brain scans. The reward centers appear darker, quieter. What this means practically is permanent. Ordinary life loses its color. A beautiful sunset, a meal you love, laughter with someone you care about, the brain circuitry that used to respond to those things has been burned away and replaced with circuitry that responds only to the drug. You traded every small joy available to a human life for 2 days of feeling invincible. Ketamine. You leave your body. Not as a metaphor. You look down at your hands and they appear to belong to someone else. The room is still present, but you are somehow behind it, observing from a remove, a passenger watching your own experience through glass. Ketamine is a dissociative anesthetic. It works by blocking NMDA receptors, which regulate glutamate, the primary excitatory neurotransmitter in your brain. Glutamate is responsible for connecting sensory input to your sense of self, for stitching the stream of information into a coherent experience of being someone. Block it, and the stitching loosens. The self starts to dissolve at its edges. At low doses, this is described as euphoric, dreamy, a floating, weightless state where anxiety loses its grip because there isn't enough self present to be anxious. Psychiatrists are actively studying low-dose ketamine as a rapid treatment for severe depression, with results that are genuinely remarkable. At higher doses, users describe what's called the K-hole, a complete departure from consensus reality. Some describe it as terrifying, a formless void with no reference points. Others describe it as the most profound experience of their lives, dissolution of ego, contact with something vast. Some report both simultaneously and cannot distinguish between them. You come back slowly. The room reassembles piece by piece. Your hands return to you. You sit very still for a long time, trying to locate the words for what just happened, finding none.